Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Student of the Game. I am Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game. And listen, if you're here, chances are you like talking sport. We're glad to do it here, I hope you're glad to do it with us here tonight, or wherever it is you're doing it. If you're happy doing it through the podcast on any of your podcast catchers. But in case you're doing it through the Huddle Up YouTube channel or the Sertoma Media YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe to either of those. Despite the fact the Huddle Up podcasts love misquoting me, apparently. Shouts to EJ Christian, honestly speaking. I kid. By the way, speaking of Huddle Up podcast, we'll be talking later to everybody's favorite Cincinnati Bengal homer, Mikey the Burn, the most analytical mind of the Huddle Up podcast that's not a student. He'll have a lot of stuff to say about that and other things going on in the NFL. That should be fun. And listen, of course, my work with the Black and Gold Banneret has me covering UCF, who's hosting Colorado this week. A real big game within the Big 12 Conference, and a lot of stuff going on there. Could have implications to get one of those two teams ranked. And depending on how Kansas State and Oklahoma State go, it could be UCF putting themselves in pole position to really make a race, give themselves a chance rather to be in a big part of the Big 12 Conference Championship race. Inevitably, of course, the expected collision course with Utah on Black Friday should UCF stay in the race long enough there. That's going to be very compelling stuff here coming up on Saturday, and I'll be there in person to do that. Also, might have a shot to talk to Brady Quinn or Rob Stone, so make sure you check that out as well. That's going to be fun all the way around. But listen, we're here talking college real quick before I jump into the NFL and the absolute flipping chaos that league has become. I mean, listen, I didn't know I was going to be covering an 0-3 team before the season started that's looking down the barrel of 0-5. Because I'm looking down the barrel of 0-5. No, we're not there yet. Take it easy. I had that conversation earlier with my friend Travis T. Holmes of the Duval Dive. And of course, he's also in Big Cat Country. So make sure you take care of that as well. Make sure you check out all those things. Even if you're just Jaguar adjacent, you'll have a good time doing that. But listen, let me take it to college ranks real quick. And I wrote an article. I'm not picking up the bell again. I'm too lazy. On the Black and Gold Banneret, bing, regarding RJ Harvey, their running back. UCF is averaging, 371 rushing yards a game so far at the hands of RJ Harvey and an excellent UCF running core, supported by the way, maybe one of the more underrated offensive lines in the league. But we're not having that conversation right now, right? We wanted to take a dump on them last year when they were moving up to G5 from G5 to a power conference, and they were still good. They were just getting criticized for everyone else's mistakes, I would argue. But enough about that. It's less about UCF I want to talk and more on the other side. No, not about anybody named Sanders. This kid, Travis Hunter. Listen, and I'm not just doing it because Joel Klatt did it a couple weeks ago. I had alluded to the fact that he would be a decent choice for it. And I wrote an article about RJ Harvey's obstacles, the running back at UCF, to being a Heisman candidate himself. One of them was simply named Travis Hunter. RJ Harvey's problem? He only plays one side of the ball. That's right, folks. But why does that make RJ Harvey limited? Hey, even Devontae Smith, the last wide receiver to win the Heisman Award, current Eagle, by the way, former Alabama Crimson Tidesman, Crimson member of the Crimson Tide. How do you do singular of the Tide? Somebody help me with that. Can I get something in the comments anywhere? At me on Twitter, at the SOT. What is the singular of a Crimson Tide player? A Crimson Tide? That sounds dumb. We'll call him a Crimson Tidesman. That's what I'm rolling with. Anyways, sounds like something out of a bad medieval novel. And the Crimson Tidesman swept in like a cavalry. Anyways, Devontae Smith was the last receiver 4 years ago. 5 seasons, 4 years to win the Heisman himself. But he didn't play on just one part of the ball. But Kyle, he didn't play defense. No, special teams had significant, I think it was a really long punt return for a touchdown. I'm thinking something in the 80s. I don't know. Check out the article on the blackandgoldbanneret.com. I have the stat there. So I say that to say the next previous non-quarterback to win the Heisman was Derrick Henry, also a running back, also of Alabama. But the other wide receivers or other, let's say, offensive specialists to have won it, the non-running backs to have run it, also had to play multifaceted elements to their game. Typically special teams, right? Desmond Howard, famous for his returns, even going back even to Tim Brown in the 80s at Notre Dame. Yeah, see, Jim, I brought up Notre Dame. Stop acting like I hate Notre Dame. And somebody that's going to be on this two-man panel tonight claims I said they won't make the playoff, and I'm not the one of the two-man panel. More on that later as he sits in the digital green room wondering what I'm talking about. Anyways, all that joking aside, here's what makes Travis Hunter so perfect. To be, inevitable. Thanos looks at him and goes, he is inevitable, okay? If he stays healthy, which that is hardly inevitable, this dude averages over 100 snaps a game, 3 games in. And then he turns around, messes around, and goes, 145 snaps in the comeback win against Baylor. Being the guy, by the way, who made the key forced fumble as a defensive back. And he's one of, 2 receivers, 4 games in, with 100-yard games. That is multifaceted. Yeah, he happens to play special teams too, by the way, for those who are asking. There's a reason this guy should be Heisman inevitable, and it's just simply because he's on the field that long. Oh, by the way, added bonus, happens to do it at a high level. But Kyle, Cam Ward, quarterback, shut up. But Kyle, Colorado's bad. Okay, listen, maybe they are, although they are currently 3-1. And you have every reason to believe and agree with the fact that they are indeed going to be a team that is going to struggle to be bowl eligible, right? But here's the thing. We just found a positive to the Deion effect. Now, granted, he's very helpful for inclusion, head coach of color, doing it his way, as UCF's Gus Malzahn puts it, about what he likes most about Deion Sanders as a coach, right? And in doing all of that, his notoriety that had come in with him as a former player and essentially a personality in and around football, particularly the NFL, and him doing what he did at Jackson State, built up a juice, a gas, an aura, if you will, that lifts his team be up above their performance on the football field to where now in every press conference, he's also trying to win the hearts and minds. Doesn't win every battle, but he wins a lot of them. And in doing all that, he's keeping a guy that is kicking tons of just rear on a regular basis. We mentioned the stats, right? 4 games in, 100 yards receiving, each of them, getting stops and turnovers on defense and defensive back on the rare occasions they try to test the guy, and does special teams. If he stays healthy for 8 games and does those stats and continues that pace and does not get the Heisman, it will be the biggest Heisman crime since Ndamukong Suh. But I'm willing to forgive the Ndamukong Suh crime if you let Travis Hunter be your Heisman. Don't be stupid, voters. Don't be stupid. Speaking of things that aren't stupid, one of my favorite guys, my best analytical mind on the Huddle Up, is a guy who doesn't refer to himself as a student of the game. Well, it's just he makes it really hot in here. Don't worry, I won't take off my clothes. This isn't a Diddy party. I'm talking about Mikey the Burn. Burn, what's going on there? Oh, he's making the yeast face from the Diddy reference. My bad, too soon?
We ain't going nowhere?
Wow. Anyways, the only thing that's going anywhere is how you telling Jim Neese of Huddle Up that I said Notre Dame wouldn't make the playoff. What is that?
When did I say that?
I mean, it was during the show. I just listened.
Did I? I don't even remember what I said half the time.
The problem with haters is they're going to hate. And damn it, you let me hate on my own terms. I never said anything as ridiculous as Notre Dame won't make the playoff. It's because I hate the committee, and they're obviously going to let them in no matter what. Anyways.
hate.
It's not about Notre Dame, buddy. Anyways, speaking of hate, I'm glad you're wearing orange tonight. It's appropriate because I'll be honest, man, you and I are going to boldly go on a mission that a lot of the NFL public is trying to understand. Okay, hear me out. 0-3 teams that currently exist right now. The Titans. Okay, very unsurprising, actually. You know, the mayonnaise messiah is your quarterback. the Jaguars, I am going to lead with saying I wasn't ready. Like, I thought they would at least beat the damn Browns, and technically they did if it weren't for D'Ernest Johnson illegal shift canceling a touchdown, right? We don't have to talk about that too much. You're wearing an orange shirt, ironically the same color of the helmet as a team that calls themselves the Browns. That's right. I'm never letting that go, Cleveland fans. What the hell? And lastly, speaking of another team that wears orange, though looks damn fine in white and stripe. I love the Siberian Tiger threads, by the way. Listen, if there was a Bengals player I cheered for enough, I would get that version of it. The Bengals 0-3. Mikey Byrne, help me out. Now, I get it. Part of it was you did play the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes II was a great thing, and you can argue about the call that you want. I heard your whiny fest on Huddle Up podcast about defensive pass interference. And listen, some of your takes were valid. That particular game, I'm sorry, not so much. The more I watch it, the more convinced I am it's DPI. But
I said the week that it happened, that was defensive pass interference. I have not.
I beg your pardon. I stand corrected.
I have not gone off of that claim. My claim is more if they're going to call that, but not call other ones that they've let go in other games, both involving Patrick Mahomes II and other teams in the National Football League. That's the confusing part to me. It's where is the line? Because the line seems to be very blurred 3 weeks into the regular season.
I don't mean to be this guy, but this isn't new, folks. I mean, like, they've had problems with this call for how long? Like, do you remember the brief, PR stunt that was saying, oh, hey, PI is challengeable, and then anybody would challenge it, and then, like, the song you would hear over the TV was some interpretation of CeeLo Green, Forget You, because we can't cuss on this show, ooh, 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 right? Like, that was never even taken seriously. It was all a PR stunt. Of that, I'm convinced. However, that is not enough for me to believe or for you to explain, frankly. We mentioned white uniforms. That has nothing to do with the red tails. Sorry, Commanders. Help me with Monday, dude. Because listen, as somebody who's had to take a lot of time and analyze what went wrong in a Monday game, I haven't had time to look at the red tails and the Bengals right now. And if you want to see that analysis, by the way, look at the Duval dive. So help me out, buddy.
So what I'll say here is, looking through the first 3 games of the regular season for the Cincinnati Bengals, obviously you look at the New England game, you look at the game against the Commodores, and you have your questions about how did those 2 teams defeat the Cincinnati Bengals? Well, it's the same way that the Kansas City Chiefs actually defeated the Cincinnati Bengals, and it wasn't the arm of Patrick Mahomes II, because that was statistically one of, if not the worst games of Patrick's regular season career. It's the running game.
Mm-hmm.
It's the lack of pressure that the front four has been able to get from Trey Hendrickson to Sam Hubbard. And the real hole here that was not addressed in the offseason, the loss of DJ Reader. The fact that at one point in the game against Washington, I am at work, I'm looking at a friend of mine, and I tell them, it's 3rd and 7. What are they going to do here? And I go, what do you mean, what are they going to do here? They're going to have Daniels take the snap. He's going to RPO, and he's going to keep it himself. He's going to get 5 yards, and then they're going to run it again on 4th and 2. And it's exactly what they did.
And why not? Saddles. Sorry.
If you can't stop it, why go away from it? And right now, that is the issue with the Cincinnati Bengals. They are unable to stop the run. Ramondre Stevenson ran all over them. Did they get help because they turned the ball over 2 times and one of them in the red zone and, not having T. Higgins and a sick Jamar Chase? Sure. But I'm going to chalk up those last 2 things as excuses. They turned the ball over and they couldn't stop the run.
And I agree with you. I said as much the other week when we talked about it. Yeah, I think you're right there.
Game against Kansas City, they were in that game the entire way. That game was a dogfight. You chalk that one up to whoever had the ball last was going to win. It happened to be Kansas City on that day. It is what it is. You could be mad at the pass interference call. You can be mad at the hip drop tackle not being called against Jamar Chase. You can be mad that they called the flag on Jamar Chase. But guess what? At the end of the day, the team who had the ball last got the win, and that's where we move on from it.
I mean, listen, I get why Cincinnati Bengals fans are all defunct and freaking out because they clearly have a history of starting seasons strongly and getting off to a quick. No, they don't. They're 1-9 in the past 5 years when you can find weeks 1 and week 2. This is kind of a Bengals thing. I get it. And yeah, I love that you keep bringing up the point for those that ask the question. Hey, listen, contrary to popular belief, allegedly, whether you think they're lucky or not, the Chiefs are still a good football team, and they're when they typically play their worst football, they're not getting got. And I think that's the biggest issue that people have. I think the NFL in general, especially happen to be a fan of an AFC team that's trying to go somewhere. I'm even calling out people that you oppose and Ravens fans being, I don't want to say, yeah, I do. I want to say dejected by the fact that if you're going to sneak up and get a win on the Chiefs, this is the week to do it. Just like the Jags failed to do it last year. I believe it was week 2 themselves. They had them on the ropes in 23 and couldn't finish the job. So I get it from that standpoint.
This front 3 games for the Kansas City Chiefs looks to be on paper probably the worst 3 games from a production standpoint that they've had in the Patrick Mahomes II era.
Mm-hmm.
If Isaiah Likely's foot is a size 10 instead of a size 12, that's 0-1. If things happen differently in Cincinnati, they're 0-2. And if somehow the referees get the call right in Atlanta, they could be staring at 0-3 and being right in the same conversation with Cincinnati and Baltimore. But at the end of the day,
halftime of the Ravens game too, by the way, they were that close to having a touchdown there as well. As just the Chiefs defender got it by a wrist. Everybody seems to forget that. I think that's even bigger than Isaiah Likely. But, I could talk about it not being Isaiah, but it's likely everyone will keep forgetting. So I'm going to keep bringing it up. Continue, Burn. Sorry.
Makes perfect sense. I mean, when you look at this team, the Kansas City Chiefs have been getting, for a lack of a better term, because I don't think I have one, bailed out. Not by just officiating, but by head-scratching play calling, head-scratching clock management by certain teams, and the ineffectiveness of the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday night to finish a drive.
Can we bring in one more factor that I'm getting, and this isn't me calling out you, Burn. This is me calling out the Nash. There's one more factor, and you haven't seen it. I'm going to say I'm a little disappointed you haven't said his name yet, but we need to see. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Andy Reid?
Chris Jones! Why are we talking about Chris Jones? Damn it!
I mean, that felt like the easy one. I thought you were going with something more difficult. I thought we were saying like Isaiah Pacheco getting hurt.
I mean, if I could cuss on this show, what I would say is, if it's so easy, Bird, why the beep aren't we talking about what? Why the aren't we talking about it?
Well, I mean, me and you could talk about it. Why isn't the national media talking about it?
Because we watch games. Emmanuel Acho doesn't. Next question.
Yeah, Nick Wright watches Patrick Mahomes' stat lines, not what the Kansas City Chiefs are doing on the field.
Hold up, though. He does watch Chris Jones. He's a Chiefs homer. I'm just saying.
Homer.
That's right,
Homer. Yeah. So right now, addressing the Bengal thought process here right now.
Yeah.
They always start off slow. That's the forte. I get it. Well, guess what? You got a date with your former quarterback in the Red Rocket, Andy Dalton, this Sunday in Carolina.
Bruh.
And then you play Baltimore. Then you play the Giants. Then you play the Browns. The reality of the situation is, if that 4-game stretch, you are not 1 game over or 1 game under 500, there's a problem. You got to win 3 out of 4.
If they get 2-2, would you accept that?
You'd have to tell me what the people ahead of them have done. You'd have to tell me what Pittsburgh and Baltimore did in the division.
Because, okay, let's discuss that too, by the way. I love how you're conveniently leaving Cleveland out. That makes this a shorter segment. But
to quote the great Ernest E.J. Christian, Deshaun Watson's going to have a revolutionary season. He's going to be back to being Houston Texans Deshaun Watson, and I'm also going to lose 35 pounds before week 4.
Wow, I don't even
lies.
I don't even know how to respond to that shade. Damn.
Lies.
Can listen, when the Hurricanes passed over, can you bring that shade back? Because it's going to be pretty sunny after that too. I mean, credit to Pittsburgh beating the Chargers and Harbaugh, the team that's closest to their actual style of play. But you mentioned, what else can the other teams in the division do over the next stage there. By the way, the Steelers opposition, Colts, Cowboys, Raiders, Jets. I'm not saying that's simple, but it's relatively favorable. I really think that, like, for example, I could argue the toughest team on there is the Cowboys, and I believe the Steelers clean their clock, and then maybe
is Aaron Rodgers healthy for that Jets game?
He won't be potentially when they get done, is what I'm going to say, and then the goddamn Jets will have real problems.
Because I would say the Jets are probably the toughest matchup if Rodgers is healthy.
Fair, okay. Yeah, I'll allow that. It's a toss up. For me, it's a toss up. I'm not believing in the Jets, buddy.
Oh, so. I'm not here to punch the ticket and say that they're a playoff team or going to beat the Bills for the division or anything along those lines. But when you're looking at it, the Dallas Cowboys, and sorry, Jim, they just haven't been good the last 2 weeks.
Oh, he said as much. What do we apologize?
No, but I'm saying I'm going to go a little further here. They can't stop the run, and that's what Pittsburgh does better than any team that they've faced so far.
Point well taken.
I mean, they let Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson run on them, and now you're going to get Justin Fields and Najee Harris and Jalen Warren and, all that run and the offensive line that Pittsburgh has. It could be a long day in the trenches for the Dallas Cowboys.
We could transition to the Ravens after that too, buddy. Like with the Ravens, their schedule is actually somewhat difficult. A rising Bills team who really hasn't shown me anything yet. The Bengals, as you mentioned, that could go either way because of that AFC North division, man. God dang it. It's amazing with its rivalries. The Red Tails might be the air quotes weakest game, and they're suddenly frisky. I'll use the word. I don't care. And of course, the Buccaneers, who, depending on what they've found in their identity lately, could be something too. So that's a relatively tough schedule themselves. So I think there's that.
Well, like you said, and the thing is I don't think that this Baltimore team has enough firepower to beat the Buffalo Bills this week. So we're living in a world where it could be the 1-3 Bengals against the 1-3 Baltimore Ravens in a game that a lot of people thought was going to be could these teams both be undefeated going into that game? And then you have obviously like you said, the Red Tails. If they play the style of football that they played against the Bengals the rest of the way, they're in contention to be an NFC playoff team. They ran the ball effective. They didn't make Jaden Daniels, and maybe this is a Cincinnati Bengal problem. Please let me go back to this point real quick.
Yeah, we've been tangent.
They let Jaden Daniels have a clean pocket when he wanted to stand in the pocket and throw the football, and then when it was not a clean pocket, they didn't do a good enough job of getting him to the ground, and they let him get outside the pocket. And at the end of the day, if other teams are not going to get to the pressure of Jaden Daniels and let him make that throw like he made on 3rd and 5 with 2 minutes left to Terry McLaurin to seal that game, the Commanders are going to be a hard out.
Yeah. There's no way of massaging that point. He looks kind of like a young Deshaun Watson in that way. See what I did there? Anyways, so I'll add this too. I feel like you mentioned Buffalo and the Ravens. You may have noticed I took the Buffalo in that game. I think they went outright because the Bills are strong where the Ravens are weakest. Those guards are backups still, if I remember correctly. And Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones. Listen, I wrote about that game leading into Monday night because they were facing the Jags, and I write about them for Fans First Sports Network. I was deathly afraid of seeing what Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver would do. And they did their stuff too. I just wasn't realized that Cam Robinson was going to be made into a folding chair at the tackle spot. They're not bad on the ends either, is my point. Okay. Listen, facts of the case. 8 pressures allowed on, 40? Is it 40? I have to look. I don't have it in front of me. It's 43 pass attempts, I think. Something like that. Not great, Bob. No, 46. That's what it is, because it works out to 50%, because there were 23 total pressures. 23 total pressures allowed by that offensive line. Now, the Bengals aren't going to do that bad on the offensive line, a statement which I thought I'm sure you thought you would never hear in this half century, but here we are. So I say all that to say the Bills' defensive tackle core is what's going to make it difficult for the Ravens. You're talking about firepower, buddy. I don't think it gets that far down the list. So all of the above to say, I love that you made the point about your Bengals. You don't need to win the race. You just need to be the next fastest guy ahead of the grizzly bear who's hungry. And I think the Steelers will fall back to earth eventually, too. You can't play football like that in this day and age, in my opinion, for 17 games and not miss time. Oh, TJ Watt has missed time. It doesn't make him an injury-prone player. He just has a tough style of play. He's going to get a little nicked up. Nature of the beast.
He's not Joey Bosa. He's not made of glass, but he is going to get his.
Wow.
Unfortunately, that is what Joey Bosa has become.
Wow.
I like Joey Bosa, but
Wow.
Yeah.
But
here's
the Owen Wilson, you man, it's harsh. It's not incorrect. It's so wow. Anyways.
So the key here for the Bengals, and I've sat back and I've thought about this for the last 24 to 36 hours.
Buddy, the most analytical mind on Huddle Up that's not a student isn't just a clever effing title, okay? Continue.
So the Bengals bye week is week 12.
Yes.
Coming out of the bye week, it's Pittsburgh, at Dallas on Monday night, at the Titans, Cleveland at home, Denver at home, at Pittsburgh. Give yourself a fighting chance going into the bye week.
I love that point you're making.
And let it fall where it lays. Because at the end of the day, you got yourself a schedule to where if the Dallas Cowboys are out of it at this point, they may not even show up for that game.
Great point.
The Titans are the Titans.
Yeah, so just need to put some mayonnaise in that coffee. I hear you.
Correct. You get Cleveland at home on a Thursday night. That's going to be wild.
No telling what their state of mind and being is going to be.
Correct.
Yeah.
Denver, 2 weeks left in the regular season. We don't know what they're going to look like, so it could be that. And
although they'll still be dangerous because I think Bo Nix will be trying to learn still. Let's give that kid
correct. I don't think that's going to be a cakewalk. I think they'll have full firepower for that. But the fact that you get both games against the Baltimore Ravens out of the way before the second week of November, there's a lot of watching what happens in front of you that takes place because your matchup before the bye week is the LA Chargers.
Right.
What happens if Justin Herbert's dinged up? High ankle sprain, re-aggravated it this week. High ankle sprains are, for a lack of a better term, a B word.
Oh, they're picky. They're fidgety. We don't even have to use naughty words. They are difficult.
Yes. So that's one of those where he might be there. He could also still be dealing with ramifications of that.
Kind of like Brett Favre. Or sorry, I keep doing that. Aaron Rodgers. They're so similar. It's not my fault, Bern.
So when you look at it from that perspective, you have 7 games in 8 weeks with your bye week in that mix where if you keep yourself within fighting contention of winning the division, you play Pittsburgh twice, you play the Browns once, you're going to play 3 games inside the division after the bye week where you're going to know what you need to do to be a playoff team. And once you get there, it's all on the table. Anything can happen whenever you get to the playoffs. And that's been proven more times than not recently. I will say the one positive takeaway I do have coming out of the Commandos game is the offense finally looks like it wants to fire on all cylinders. Zach Moss looked good. Chase Brown looked good. The two-headed monster in the backfield looked effective. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase finally look like they have their connection back. Oh, and by the way, T. Higgins looks like the hamstring is fine. Was after the second drive, it looked like he was going 100 miles an hour. You could tell the first and second drive, it was like, okay, I'm going to run this cut and I'm going to see if this thing's going to pop on me or not. Luckily enough, it didn't. So I'm happy with the way the offense looks like it wants to come together. That's a step in the right direction. Mike Gesicki's looked good. Eric Alt Jr., the 2 tight ends that we've been portraying out there. But I think that internally there has to be something where Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson and the defensive tackles of this team have to come together right now, because the fact of the matter is we're not going to win games against teams like Baltimore, like Cleveland, like Philadelphia, like Pittsburgh, and like the Chargers without being able to stop the run. And that's something that has to be addressed. I don't know if it's a free agent move. I don't know if it's a move where somebody, maybe a Carolina Panther team, has a defensive tackle or two. I don't know their roster all that well. I'm just saying there has to be something that Zach and Lou Anarumo and the defense comes up with the schemes or something to find a way to get pressure on the quarterback and then find a way to stop the run. Because if not, you're going to have to get into a shootout with Pittsburgh. You're going to have to get into a shootout with the Chargers and hope that at the end of it, you just don't punt the football. Because if you punt the football, it's going to be hard enough for you to get back in the game.
I mean, we've seen, though, however, your team is capable of not punting the football. The defense has to not let the other side do that.
Correct. They have to find a stop. Or if you're going to sit there and go possession for possession with somebody, you got to at least hold them to a field goal.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Get some red zone action in there, prevention.
Correct. And the Commanders game, and I've talked about this, with friends and other Bengals fans. The 2-point conversion, the no flag on the pass interference. It's frustrating in the moment. It's something that obviously that you want that flag to be thrown, especially after the way that things ended the week before against the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's frustrating, but that's not something that you can sit there and say, okay, we need that. We shouldn't have needed that. We should have been able to find a way to get a stop on defense, to get the football back, not down by 10.
You're the worst scorer of all time. What are we doing here? You're supposed to scream at the officials and blame them. I'm joking.
Oh, no. There's realism here, and then there's also the frustrating part. The frustrating thing in all of it is, if it's not a 5-point game, maybe the refs throw that flag. If Evan McPherson doesn't miss that field goal in the first quarter, and that 2-point conversion is something that potentially ties the football game, who's to say the referees don't throw that flag there? I'm not going to sit here and play that side of the fence. I'm not going to pull an Ernest Eagle Jaworski Christian and say that.
I'll even go next level on you. And if I were on that panel, I would have pissed off 2 of the Eagles fans. But I hate that defensive, well, it was the moment. No, listen, you commit a foul, don't get beat, okay? And the reason why the Eagles would get pissed is I'll bring up Bradbury again from that Super Bowl that they were bitching about like little girls. Here's the things, folks, okay? Don't get beat. How about that? That's your purpose as a defensive player, is to not get beat. If you get beat and then you foul to hide the fact you get beat, that's why they throw flags. That's how this ish works. So if the defense really is, if somebody ever gets on record saying, oh, well, it wasn't the right time in the game to make that call, beat you. I would be pissed. Just not as an Eagles fan. I'm obviously not one. My name isn't Eagles Jaworski. Am I right, Bern? And then also on top of that, I'm not even buying the t-shirt. I might buy a Tool Time t-shirt on TeePublic, available through Huddle Up podcast merchandise suite there, where you can also get student of the game material. I need to do better about putting the link there. Sorry, guys. I'll get that right, I promise. But the punchline is, don't get beat. Don't be stupid. No, that's terrible. I know that last part's a joke, but in all seriousness, like that's a lot of it there too. But no, I mean, but what if I was having you on as an exploration of what is wrong with the Bengals, you're just telling me, dog, Geno Atkins ain't walking through that door. Have I simplified it yet put it the right way?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, great talk. Let me run another theory by you, because this is one I've kind of been playing with. I loosely alluded to it on the Student of the Game report on the Earnestly Speaking podcast, where for once EJ Christian was allowing me to do a little football analysis and not clickbaiting. I said what I said.
That's a shocker.
And listen, at the end of the day, he might be a host, but I still carry that show. Anyways, I'm terrible. Wow. My shoulders hurt. Anyways, no. That's what she said. Anyways, you mentioned the Red Tails, such as they are. And I'm not saying this is a 2024 occurrence, right? But even if we go to the Huddle Up podcast panelists who are Eagles fans, right? Eagles Jaworski, who ironically is named Eagles Jaworski, even though he's a Cowboys fan. Big Jim himself, of course, the CEO of Huddle Up. They would even agree that the Cowboys, not great, Bob, right? I think you'd agree that that's the take for them right now. So everything that's about, they're this close to a reboot unless they make some sort of a really miraculous turnaround, only to eventually lose their first playoff game. I said jokingly, although it's probably true. Anyways, then for the Eagles panel, Eagles fans on the panel, I think they're less accepting of this, but in a world where Nick Sirianni is having them lose games they shouldn't and barely squeaking by games where they should have won, let's be honest, they did not look good against the Saints. I think you'll agree. If that matriculates down the field of the season, Hank Stram reference, noise. And Sirianni also gets fired. That's the makings of what I refer to as a power vacuum in the NFC East. And in that instance, the one with the most ready-made, air quotes, quarterback and roster could arguably be the Washington Red Tails. Assuming those two things happen, that Sirianni and McCarthy get fired, is 25 the year we see the Red Tails potentially pull a Detroit Lions and ascend the power vacuum? And by the way, you notice how I'm leaving the Giants out completely, and rightly so.
Yes, because they're the ones that are going to go through the full-blown reset with that's my wife saying hello.
I did notice the hand of Lady Caliente for those who are listening to the podcast. Yes.
So when I look at the things in the division right now, I think the Giants are going to go through the rebuild. I don't know if it includes Brian Daboll still being there or not, but I think Danny Dimes' time in New York is over.
Spoiler alert, Kyle thinks no.
I mean, I honestly, if you're gonna go through a rebuild, it's probably not going to involve the coach that was there.
Let's not jump too far ahead on this. I'm basically saying we're looking at a non-zero chance of 3 head coaches in the NFC East being out, right? I mean, am I nuts for even thinking that's possible? Can you help me, Bern? Level me if I'm wrong here, man. That's why you're here.
I mean, if things keep going the way that they go, especially in Philadelphia, that they are going, Sirianni's definitely gone. If the Cowboys implode, McCarthy is gone. Now
continue imploding.
Daboll might get another year if the offense looks like the only piece that's really missing is the quarterback.
I mean, after all, he's allegedly the 2022 coach of the year. Anyways.
And I'm also allegedly playing quarterback for the Miami Dolphins this week. More on that later.
That's more realistic than anything else. Go look up Tim Boyle's college career at UConn, by the way. You'll see how true your statement is. Moving
on. So I think that with Dan Quinn and, the offensive mind of Cliff Kingsbury, as funny as this is going to sound, I don't think he was the problem in Arizona. I think the fact that they couldn't keep the quarterback healthy, they didn't put the pieces around him being Kyler Murray, when he was on the field, to be an above-average quarterback in the National Football League.
Let the audience at Nome catch up with why you're going to Cliff Kingsbury.
Because of his offensive mindset of being able to use Jaden Daniels the way that Jaden Daniels needs to be used.
What you're saying is the position he currently holds in Washington is
offensive coordinator.
Thank you. Carry on, sir.
Yes. So with that being said, and the pieces that they have there, Terry McLaurin looks as good as he's looked. Austin Eckler before the concussion, was a big piece of that offense and what they were doing. And I think when you look at this Commanders team, the defense has been very good at points this season. And I think that's something that's got to carry over. So maybe this is let's sign Terry to an extension. Maybe this is where they spend the money. And I'm going to throw the name out there, and this is going to be the knife through my chest. Maybe Washington is a landing spot for T. Higgins.
That is kind of fascinating. I'm not going to BS you. Hey, listen, buddy, for the record, as somebody who saw him as an excellent prospect for a team, I wrote an article on Jaguar. No, wait, they don't get a bell. I don't write there anymore. I wrote an article on Jaguars on SI about T. Higgins as a potential for the Jags if they had some extra cash lying around once Calvin Ridley left. They went a different direction and got Gabe Davis and drafted BTJ. Okay, cool. I get it. But yeah, T. Higgins is going to be a hell of a commodity. And I can't rule out him going to the Commanders.
You know, and if they put him with Terry and they get a 1-2 punch there, and you know they still have Brian Robinson, you know, I think that this team is a fascinating mindset to have. I think if both Philly and Dallas decide to ejecto glove their coaches and have to sit there and now figure out how to pick the pieces up, I think the Commanders are a very, very easy team to sit there and go, oh, that could be your team that wins the division the next 2 years while these teams try to figure out what they're doing. Now, yes, power vacuum, like you said. But the thing here is, if the Philadelphia Eagles move on from Nick Sirianni, they've got to find them a head coach / offensive coordinator, the same way that Dan Quinn found Cliff Kingsbury, knowing that they were going to draft Jaden Daniels, knowing that they were going to go get the pieces that they got before they got them to bring in Cliff Kingsbury to build that offense the way that it needs to be. Jalen Hurts, you know what you're getting from him. You know what you're getting from AJ. You know what you're getting from Devontae Smith. I said it when we discussed the Philadelphia Eagles on the simulcast. I said it whenever we discussed them on our prediction shows. The question here was going to be, what is life like without Jason Kelce on that offensive line?
And the QB sneak ain't so effective, you notice.
Correct. Mm-hmm. The brotherly shove is not as brotherly and a lot more shovelly.
Listen, just so long as you don't name it something that sounds like it's coming out of a Diddy party, like a lot of the media keeps doing, we're good. That's right. I just made a tush push joke. Deal with it. Moving on.
Yeah.
That wasn't for you. That was for the people at home. Moving on.
That works. So it's one of those things where I addressed that I thought the offensive line was going to be concerned, and I kept hearing, oh no, this guy was handpicked by Jason Kelce to be his predecessor. That's cute. He's not Jason Kelce though.
Yeah, here's the thing. Here's the problem. Two problems with offensive linemen. Well, not two problems with this train of thought. And hear me out, because I'm only interrupting you because this is the one place I feel comfortable telling you, I got this, kiddo. Let Unc tell a story. Am I allowed to call myself Unc as a white guy? Anyways, it's whatever.
Get him, Shannon. Get him.
I'm darker than you. It's cool. I'm waving my camera for those who are listening to the podcast at my credentials in the form of my Aaron Evans original painting of me in my playing days doing offensive line. Yes, my shoulders were that big wearing pads, Burn, in case you were wondering. Moving on. So offensive linemen in general don't have a lot of ego. You really can't, for as often as you only get talked about when ish goes wrong. If that's the case. A, B. Jason Kelce is extra humble. Because can you imagine being a big brother to Travis Kelce? And I'm not here to say that he's a problem, but he's kind of a problem. So in that way that he just, wow, listen, I would love to party with the dude. I would hate to be his big brother. And you've heard the stories by now of how instrumental Jason was in Travis's draft process. Just so we're clear, okay? Go watch the New Heights podcast if you don't know what I'm talking about. After you're done with us, of course. Anyways. So with all that, being a humble guy, being a guy who isn't aware of how great he actually is, I don't think Jason Daniel Kelce, Mikey Byrne, believes he's a Hall of Famer. He's that guy. And it reminds me of a story of my first credentialed event. Hear me out. I love telling this story and whatever. Gather round. I pulled the Unc card. This is my own fault. I apologize, Byrne. But Larry Allen, right? Great tackle for the Dallas Cowboys, was up there, and it was the luncheon after the Gold Jacket, and Chris Carter was telling a story, former Vikings receiver, right? Former Eagle, actually, who thanked Ryan for cutting him so he could find himself. Great speech, by the way. Anyways, Larry Allen kept saying, I don't belong here. I don't belong here. Chris Carter caught wind of that while that was happening, and they happened to be playing the highlight reel that shows the stuff you know. It was like the police, said Chris Carter. No, I don't mean the rock band. I mean like cops. We have video evidence of how great you were. And that is the same thing I would say to Jason Daniel Kelsey. We have video evidence of what you were. Unfortunately, we have incriminating evidence of his handpicked replacement not being that guy. Now, maybe he needs more time, and that is a completely fair assessment, but I exactly see where you're coming from. Thank you for letting me preach, by the way, about my first credential event and offensive line stuff. I mean, listen, in other situations, I might be slightly aroused that I got a chance to do this. Anyways, no, listen. But yeah, I think you make a lot of valid points there about the protection that's different. People are noticing that Jalen Hurts hasn't been the same quarterback since that 300-yard Super Bowl performance that I personally witnessed. I get that. I think that's more about coaching changes than anything else, right? So
yeah, I would agree with that assessment. You know, and I circling back to the orange shirt.
There's
the
a
one
transition.
the one frustrating thing I will say coming out of this game and making the mistake of watching mainstream media's attention of what's going on around the national football.
Yeah.
Correct. And this one's going to be directed at Unk and all those other guys that love to talk on First Take about. I'm sick and tired of the excuses for Joe Burrow.
Yo, by the way, thank you for doing this because I wanted this to be a segment and I forgot. Thank you for pulling this in. Let's do this.
What excuse are we asking for here?
Moreover, they'll even say, Mikey Burr. By the way, this is specific to Chris Canty. I will name names in Emmanuel Acho bad level take. It's not Kendrick Perkins, Nikola Jokic winning the MVP is racist bad, but it's pretty GD bad. Okay, I said what I said, Bert. I don't care if you're laughing. Damn it, you know I'm right. You laugh because it's funny because it's true. Okay,
it's funny because Kendrick Perkins, NBA player, former player Kendrick Perkins doesn't know what an MVP level player looks like because it was never him.
Ooh, that was fresh flame.
And guess what? This is a Celtics fan who had Kendrick Perkins on his roster for like 5 seasons. Don't worry. We all did a celebration when you left, bud. We don't miss you.
Woohoo. Damn. I thought the chili was going to be that spicy. I'd have brought some soda. Holy snap. Anyways, just wow. Okay. Credit to you, Bern. As much as I try to keep composure, you got me off kilter there. I respect that. Chris Canty, yes, goes off on a rant. And during the rant of saying, but it's Joe Burrow's fault, why we apologize, even uses the precise phrase, yes, you had a great stat line. What in the entire... I wish I was on Huddle Up right now so I could curse. So, yeah, God. What more can you know what this is? I'll make this easy for even Cowboy fans to understand. This is the kind of stuff we used to see people go after Tony Romo for. When Sean Lee was inevitably hurt again, and the defense would allow Peyton Manning to put up 50 points. And you ask, what's wrong with Tony Romo? What are we doing? I'm sorry, Bern. Why? I'm not even the Bengals fan. Why am I triggered? Because it's dumb. That's why. Sorry. Go ahead, Bern. I'm stealing your damn segment.
See, here's the thing, though. It's a word that me and you both like to criticize. Mainstream contributors is the word I'm going to use because I don't call them analysts. I call them contributors because they like to contribute,
if you will.
Sure. And here, personality wise, it's lazy. That's a lazy take. It's easy to blame the quarterback for being 0-3. You know, while we're at it, let's talk about Patrick Mahomes a second.
Please.
We talked about, it was he won the game against Cincinnati. No, he didn't. The defense did.
Chris Jones.
Chris Jones, Harrison Butker, Isaiah Pacheco pre-injury won that game. Not Patrick Mahomes. But Patrick Mahomes gets the credit because they're 3-0 and he's the quarterback for them.
And in his defense, he is an all-time great quarterback. And
sure, absolutely. I'm not.
I don't deny that. Him getting Tom Brady treatment because you know what? At least Patrick Mahomes II can run the football. Moving on.
Correct. and I will give the devil his due. I have no negativity towards Patrick Mahomes II. But when you're going to just be lazy and just tell me, so the Titans are 0-3 because of Will Levis, not because their defense can't stop anybody. The Jaguars are 0-3 because Trevor Lawrence, right? Not because their defense can't stop anyone right now.
Not because their offensive line is
in shambles.
Yeah.
You know,
can you use an analogy? You saying in shambles just makes it too real.
Sorry.
I gotta cover this team for 15 more weeks. Come on, Burn. Damn.
I mean, Trent Brown's out for the year. We lost him for the year, so we're down a piece on the offensive line that's finally been able to be decent. So trust me, I feel you.
Make me cry real tears on my own show. Stop it.
I mean, I look at it from this perspective. If you're going to be lazy and you're going to tell me that a team with a franchise quarterback is 0-3 because of the quarterback play, you then can't look up and say he had a good stat line. Did Joe Burrow turn the ball over at all against the Washington Commanders?
I don't believe he did, because that game, part of the big stat about that game, 0 turnovers, which is probably part of the problem too, if you look at it from the Bengals perspective.
Correct. They had a shot to get the ball back. Brian Robinson fumbled. They didn't get on the football. An offensive lineman from Washington scooped it up. They went down the field. They scored on that drive. Cincinnati gets the ball back. That's about 7 minutes left. It was the long drive that Washington went on that they scored on the Terry McLaurin catch to put the game away. They get the ball back there. Cincinnati can win that football game. Or they could take the lead and lose on the last drive, and Washington could win that way. And we could have another conversation about another late fourth quarter lead blown by the Cincinnati Bengal defense.
Ooh.
But if you're going to be lazy, don't go after the guy who played as close to a perfect game that he could play for the first time, probably. And this is going to be the wildest part of my entire rant here. The best game that he's probably played since the Super Bowl. Coming back from the wrist injury, week 1, didn't have T. Higgins, sick Jamar Chase, who didn't practice the entire offseason. Coming back from a wrist injury, you saw him the whole game doing this, the whole game, squeezing his hand.
Moving it around. Yeah, right.
It didn't feel right. Okay. Chalk it up to nerves, chalk it up to whatever you want to. Week 2, it looked better.
Let me add this too real quick. During camp, I remember I was talking with Eric Lopez, ironically of the Black and Gold Banneret, who was coming in previewing the Dolphins, citing Joey Burr as you know, he wasn't practicing then what was it, more than 4 days at a time because of his wrist. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So week 2, it looks a little bit better. They play a great game against the Chiefs. The fumble, the scoop and score fumble that purposely right out of Joe's hand, and you know, does the wrist maybe play a role in that? Who knows? We're never going to know, because Joe's never going to look up and blame anything other than he made a mistake. And I love that about Joe.
Because he's a goddamn American hero.
You know, so I love. Yeah, I love, and that's the thing. I love the fact that he will not blame anyone else. He will not do anything else. You know, and he's come out today, and in the press conference today, he made the comment, and this is something that about Joe that a lot of Cincinnati fans have always been like, you're not a vocal leader. You're not. Well, Joe himself today looked up and said, being a vocal leader really isn't my game. My game is always going out and showing and just letting my play talk and not be that guy. So now I guess I need to be that guy.
He doesn't yell. That's accurate. And I say this quickly. As the guy on this panel, that's met the kid before he bought fur coats. Everything he's doing now doesn't surprise me, because I got those vibes at the Fiesta Bowl when he beat UCF.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I look at that, you know, in the press conference today, you know, Joe said a lot of things that I'm happy about. I'm excited about. Like I said, we're 4 weeks into the regular season. We are 3 full games post wrist surgery. He's just going to start understanding that he can trust it more and more.
Yeah.
And he's getting the offensive weapons healthy. He's getting the offensive pieces that he needs around him back. I'm not DEFCON 5. Obviously, I'm more like a 2.5, maybe a 3, because I think we do need to.
I was going to suggest 3. That's perfect. Okay.
You know, because I do think the defense needs to be addressed in one way, shape, or form.
I don't think that's the most either. That's the tough part.
No, and I think that, and the thing that frustrated me more specifically about the Commanders game, the Terry McLaurin touchdown catch. We watched Cam Taylor-Britt pull off one of the best interceptions you'll see in football this season the week prior in Kansas City. Why isn't he on the best receiver that Washington has on a 3rd and 7 when you need a stop?
That's a great question, Burn.
I don't mind Dax Hill. I like Dax Hill. I liked him when we drafted him. But the comparison of where Terry McLaurin is as a top 15 wide receiver in the National Football League and Dax Hill being a number 2 corner on a team with a defensive problem right now, and it not being the guy who freakishly athletic can go up and win a 50-50 ball. He proved that with the interception against Kansas City and Cam Taylor-Britt was just something that I have not been able to figure out. I don't know.
Do you think maybe they underestimated Jaden Daniels? You think that's it?
Maybe early in the game, but at that point in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes left, you've watched him do anything and everything. He's thrown the ball effectively the entire night. It wasn't like
they failed to leave nothing to chance.
Correct.
Got you.
And that's the frustrating part. But when I look at the mainstream media, I'll tell you this much. Keep doubting it. They'll get it right. And then I don't want to sit here and talk to Chris Canty in December when he's like, man, that Joe Burrow's a great quarterback. So I'm just going to circle back to this one and be like, sorry, bud. We don't care what you think.
Bandwagon's full, bitch.
Yeah. Yeah. Sir, the exit was back there. You already took it. Please don't come back. And here's the thing. I've also said this from the very beginning. If this gets real ugly and we lose to Carolina this week and we lose to Baltimore in week 5,
right?
I understand we should. I'm going to play this card, though. You're 0-5. Maybe that's when you look up to someone and go, hey, insert team here. And you know what? Maybe this is a Washington. Maybe this is a Minnesota. What will you give us for T. Higgins?
Hey, how about one of our awesome offensive linemen, says Minnesota?
What if it's, hey, here's a offensive lineman and a 2nd-round draft pick in next year's draft or the year after's draft?
You think you can get that much? I don't know about all that.
Depends. Where are we at? If you're telling me in a world where a playoff contender
quarterback, yeah.
Let's just say a playoff contender loses their number 1 wide receiver. I'm sorry. I mean, to double down on Ernest E.J. Christian's bad take from last night, when the Packers get Jordan Love back, they're an NFC title game contender.
I mean, listen, okay, I'll say this much. There's a non-zero chance that happens, but yeah, that is a knee-jerk. I'll agree.
He blew his ACL out trying to make that reaction.
Buddy, I watched it. It was embarrassing for him. Then the dumbass doubled down and clickbaited on his TikTok account. Trust me, it's embarrassing. And I hope he hears this so he can. When he hears this, I'm expecting the FU 75 text message any moment now. I promise.
Exactly. I expect it to come. Don't worry.
That's what she said.
What I will say is, what if Green Bay is in the market for a number 1 wide receiver?
Oh, don't even joke. That would make them dangerous. Damn it, buddy. But then what I mean, what would you take? What could the Packers send you that's really compelling? If you believe they're a playoff team, their draft pick isn't worth a damn.
Unless you're getting multiple, unless you're getting a 2nd this year, a 3rd the following, and maybe one of the receivers back, maybe a Christian Watson, a Romeo Dobbs.
No, see, now you're talking to me. If you're talking about
something like that, if you're going to get a young receiver back and you're going to give him, okay, say it's Christian Watson, 3rd this year and a 2nd the following year for Higgins, and maybe like a 4th or a 5th.
And by the way, the reason why that's smart to do, you're not keeping this group together beyond this year anyway.
No, this is the window. If you're wanting to win a Super Bowl with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, you've got to find a way to get it together in the next 16 weeks. Because if you don't, this is your window, and honestly, you've built pieces around it. You brought in, other pieces. I know you let Joe Mixon go and you brought in Zach Moss for less because you wanted to find a way to get a job to get it done with T and Jamar. Well, guess what? I don't think it's going to happen. One of them is going to be gone. I think you need to make your decision on who that is. Unfortunately, I think it is T. Higgins. I think if you're letting Jamar Chase walk, you've lost your ever loving mind. But at this point, you have to have this realization inside that if something goes wrong in the next 2 weeks and you're staring at 0-5, you have to think with an impending free agent at wide receiver, you have to get back whatever you can get back for him.
I think that's the take. Buddy, you walked me through everything I wanted to walk through. I have a question for you.
Yes.
How about we pick some games?
Let's ride.
By the injured 49ers, head over to Chicago to battle the Bears. Burn.
Ew.
Yeah, I know, right? This is just odd enough to be interesting, right? That's my.
I mean, this has the feeling like it could be
analyze this crap because Skylar Thompson, as I understand it, isn't 100% either, which means you're putting in Tim Boyle.
I mean, I can tell you this much. I'll be at work on Monday night, and I will be watching the other Monday Night Football game because I will not be watching this one.
More on that later. Damn, you cornered me into doing it. Yeah, I got the Titans. I think the difference is more about Tajay Spears in the run game being something that can hide and tear up. If they can find a way to neutralize Calais Campbell, I think the Titans win this football game. If it's low scoring, it's because Calais Campbell has at least 3 tackles for loss. So there's me calling a shot I'm comfortable with. Not a pretty one. Anyways, the other game, the Seattle Seahawks versus the Detroit Lions. Listen, I'm going to lead with this one. I have said for weeks, I don't know what the Seahawks are, but what I don't feel confident that they are is a team that can beat Madden Campbell and the Lions. Vern, who you got?
Black unis, blue helmet, Man Campbell. Give me the Lions.
Ain't no kneecaps getting bit off tonight, Humpy Bumpies. Woo! So that will do it for this week's edition of the NFL Picks. That will do it for this week's edition of the Student of the Game podcast. Burn! Tell the world.
You can follow me on Twitter at They Call Me Burn. You can listen to me talk about South Florida baseball on Sunny Days and Double Plays, a Palm Beach baseball podcast. Our new season is supposed to kick off this weekend. Don't think that's going to happen with this hurricane that's coming through. Everybody in the northern half of Florida, T's and P's. Hopefully we get through this thing safely. You can listen to me talk with this guy as well as the rest of the Huddle Up crew over on the Huddle Up podcast every Tuesday night on Facebook, Facebook, Twitter, not Twitter anymore because Elon Musk sucks. YouTube, also on our Twitch. Go over to Big Jim's Facebook at Big Jim Sports. The link tree there will take you to all the Huddle Up links. Yeah, I appreciate it. Can't wait for the midseason awards. I can't believe we're already 4 weeks into the NFL season. Damn, holy cow!
We're just under a month. No, just over a month away from midseason awards. That is nutty. That is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping I don't have a basketball game conflict with midseason awards. That's gonna suck. But anyway, yeah, no, we already have Magic Media Day, by the way. In the way of me trying to do Coach Malzahn's presser on Monday, leading into UCF doing battle with Florida in my work with the Black and Gold Banneret. I just mentioned the NBA and college football, and I haven't even talked about the Duval Dive and the Fans First Sports Network Jaguars column that I do every week. The good, the bad, and the spotty. How's that for dad jokes, Mikey Byrne? You know. So yeah. My weekly column there, as well as I do my weekly keys to the game for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That will surely drop tomorrow. So make sure you look for that. Fans First Sports Network. Look for the Jaguars in the menu. I mentioned the Black and Gold Banneret where I write for UCF football. Basketball Media Day is coming in a month from now for UCF. It's Big 12 basketball. Just saying, throwing it out there. It's kind of a big deal, you know. So make sure you look out for all that. Of course, I will be in the building. I'm hoping that I do an interview with a Big Noon Saturday personality. May or may not be Rob Stone or Brady Quinn. We'll see what happens.
If it's Brady Quinn, you have to find a way to take a picture with him and send it to Jim and be like, I'll guard for Brady Quinn, unlike the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Burn! Oh, wait, no, that's you. That was a beautiful wave, by the way. That's the unfortunate thing. If you're on the podcast and not on the Huddle Up or Sertoba YouTube channels, you just missed that moment. Get a hold of your life and subscribe to them. Anyways, angry advertisement. It's the new wave. It's how we do things. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a Student of the Game. I mentioned the Black and Gold Banneret. Make sure you check out the Night Shift podcast for this week. Also, the live reaction to Colorado and UCF. Going to be, well, it's either going to be an exciting game or RJ Harvey's going to swallow clock for 50 minutes. We'll find out which.
Go Knights.
Charge on. So yeah, with that in mind, listen, I know that I'm covering for a UCF site, but I am excited to watch Shedeur Sanders and more importantly, future Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to do as well. And hey, listen, KJ Jefferson, I think, will be the deciding factor. Can he make those big throws on third down? We'll see all that. And I'll talk about that on the Black and Gold Banner at YouTube channel on the Night Shift Live Instant Reaction. Speaking of instant reactions, after the Jacksonville Jaguar and Texan game, the Duval Dive Live will be in full effect. Check out all those things. And by the way, if you miss them in their live video form, go to podcasts. All your podcast catchers, the Duval Dive, all that. We got you, fam. Even for the Night Shift podcast, we got you, fam. Do all that. Saying. So, for the great, the incomparable, the very hot Mikey Byrne, I'm Kyle Nash, and student of the game. And until next time, everybody, class dismissed. Oh, no, we got to get it louder than that. What a weak bell. There we go.